we are joined by Debbie Davis, the CEO of Beaumont People, the most influential businesswoman in staffing and recruitment 2026.
Culture's always evolving. It's never a set and forget. Everyone is part of the culture and everyone is responsible for it. If you hear a water cooler conversation, don't feed to whatever it is. Deal with it or come and flag it. One bad management style actually made me really sit back and think, what is important to me? I actually started to resent the industry a little bit. I just thought, if I stay, I'm going to end up resenting the job that I love. I just went, do you know what, I'm just going to focus on what I have control over, forget the noise, and just went after new business, and I was one of their top performers in the APAC region in the first 6 months.
Do you think you've got core values that you always stay true to?
Got me thinking.
Yeah. We've got a very special podcast today. We are joined by Debbie Davis, the CEO of Beaumont People, and who is also, and I've got to get this right, the most influential businesswoman in staffing and recruitment 2026. Did I get that right?
You did.
Debbie,
It's a
great.
mouthful.
Great. It is a mouthful, but I got it right. I've been nervous about that bit, but great to have you joining us today.
Likewise, thanks for the invite. Looking forward to it.
So, I'm going to jump straight into it. You've had an absolutely stellar career to date. I'm sure it's only going to get better. I want to go back to where it all started. How you even got into this industry. How did you get into recruitment?
Yeah, so interesting story. Probably, I know we all, I think back in those times as well, a lot of us fell into recruitment as we still do today. My approach was a little bit random. I was working and studying at the time, and it was my HR lecturer who approached me and said, "Are you looking for a job?" And I thought, he's the national HR director of a recruitment firm. He's trying to place me in a job. So he said, "No, I want you to come and be a recruitment for the company that he was obviously overseeing at the time." So it was a pretty straightforward, you've got the job, you don't need to do an interview, and you start on Monday pretty much. So I think when I thought back about it too, studying business, it was I wanted to run my own business but didn't know what in. But when I thought about it, it was a career from not being able to do the research you can now that allows you to tap into, you provide a good service, people come back to you, so it was very much about brand, but also using all of those business skills. So for me, it was a no-brainer when I was approached. And then it's led to a fantastic career, which I'm super excited to talk about.
It really has. And do you remember your first day?
Yeah, I do.
How'd it go? Tell us about that.
I remember my first day. And a lot of people talk about, do you remember your first placement? I do not, but I do remember my first interview I ever did. First day back, and I'm talking about I've been in recruitment for 28, almost 29 years. So no internet, no job boards, and it was very much, there's your desk, there's the business list. We used to buy a business list of businesses to call, and there's the yellow pages. That was it. That was my induction. And a candidate walked in and I went out and obviously just did the, "Oh, hi, who are you here to see?" It was a walk-in. So I can't remember who I asked, one of my colleagues, and they're like, just go and have a chat to them. And I'm like, about what? Yeah. Just ask some questions.
Well, that really is old school training, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Just go
and
for it.
That's what it was like. And there's the filing cabinet to put all your candidates in.
The CVs of candidates.
Yes, literally, not the candidates, yeah.
So that's a real straight into it. So do you remember what it was like doing the BD in those days? So it was literally dial through the yellow pages.
It was, yeah. We used to buy the, it was on a CD on those days, and people are going to say, what's a CD? I know. But it was a CD, you used to buy a business list, and literally it was whether you went alphabetical or by postcode or whatever it is. At the time, I think I knew every postcode in Sydney because you'd do the old the mailers and send out as well. So we used to quite often, before email days, is send out mailers and follow up or, whatever it might be. But a lot of it was just candidate floats.
Right. Oh, right. So floating was kind of the main thing.
Yeah, and I think it's the hidden thing about, it's weird because I think when recruitment's explained to you at the time, it was, you're finding people jobs and helping organisations find good talent, whatever it might be. But in there is a big element of sales that we talk about as well. Yeah. And I think when I just went into it, it was just part of the job. Yeah. So now it's a big thing, it's sales.
And so I know we're kind of rewinding a lot to go through this, but I always love just the foundations of what got you into it, because obviously you must have enjoyed it.
I loved it.
Yeah. Was there anything in the first year or two that you thought, hey, this might not be for me?
I would say I was very fortunate. I loved it. It was just, I knew what needed to be done. Some people that know me know this story, but to go back a step before recruitment, I grew up on a farm, so an 8,000 acre property. You would go out and start work at 4 a.m. if that was the case, on horseback and go mustering. That's sheep and cattle. And some nights you'd ride back under moonlight or out. You don't finish because it's 5 o'clock. You work till the job's done. So my work ethic and resilience from bushfires, drought, floods, whatever it might be, you can't just opt out. So I think I went into it just with a mindset of this is the job, I love it, with all the outcomes that you're driving as well. So I think for me, my only waiver was probably partway through my career, and it's only ever happened once. And it was probably a management style that just didn't align, and I actually started to resent the industry a little bit. Just around, and it wasn't just myself and the organisation, there were many people. And I just thought if I stay, I'm going to end up resenting the industry or the job that I love. So it made me realise, and it's probably, again, when you talk about advice you give people, perhaps if we do cover that off, it probably took a bad manager, and I'm fortunate. A lot of people say, you're allowed one mistake in your career. I haven't made a mistake, but it was probably one bad management style which actually made me really sit back and think what is important to me, and advice I give to a lot of people as well.
Well, I want to dig into that if we can.
Ooh, okay.
Not naming names here, but obviously that was a bit of a turning point for you in terms of probably how you conduct yourself moving forward and how you want to lead. So how did it impact you? Like, what did you change, or did it change how you wanted to lead?
It made me think about what I don't want in a manager and what I think is important to people. It's also made me really take a step back. It was actually one of my jobs after that where one of my consultants came to me and said, Deb, as a female leader, I really respect you. You're an influential, as a woman leading a business, that's really powerful with what you're doing. Recruitment at that time was very much male-dominated, particularly at a leadership level. And I didn't realise the level of impact I was having on people. I was just doing my job. Yeah. And as a fee earner, but also as a leader and as a country manager or whatever else I might have been at the time. So for me, I just loved what I was doing and was doing my thing. But as I said, for that, it's, people talk about micromanagement as an example. And for me, I use and I coach my managers on this as well, it's around a situational leadership model. If you're having a tough conversation with someone, or if they're not skilled up in a particular area, it's sort of explaining to them why you're having that conversation. Why am I talking to you a different way about X task where I don't normally talk to you about, So again, I go back to the why quite a bit.
Well, there's going to be a lot of people listening to this who are early in their career, midway through their career, female, male, but what kind of advice would you give them around it sounds like just being true to yourself and the kind of person you want to be as a leader? Any insight you can share on that?
Every person you manage in every organisation is completely different. And I think from a leadership journey as well, to come in as a leader, I've been very fortunate. Apart from this role, all of my roles I've been promoted, and I've not ever applied for a promotion. So I've certainly built my career on reputation, and I came in with a reputation in this role, but I had to earn my stripes as a CEO that just popped up overnight. So really I've taken the time to understand organisations and people and how to best manage them, and I am a very high energy, I'm always in the office, people feed off that as well, but just really understanding what gets the best out of people and trying to coach other managers around individual styles. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
So I do want to go back on this trajectory you've had in your career then, because obviously you are where you are now and you've been, I believe, a CEO a couple of times. Is that right? Talk to me about when you first started realising, okay, this is the path I'm on. Maybe it is when you went from being a GM at Davidson's, or when did you kind of realise my journey is on the path of becoming a CEO and running this? Was there ever a moment where you thought, I know this is happening?
I would go back to my role at Reed. I was called a country manager, but it was really a CEO role. I would refer it to every organisation calls things differently. And that I was actually asked to do that role before I took the role. I had some major back surgery and I knew I needed I might need some time out. That wasn't fair on the organisation or the people in the organisation not knowing what I might go through or how active or inactive I might be in the business for a period of time. So that was, and full credit to Reed and the team that I work with there, because they really pushed me to do more. You're an exceptional leader. would you ever move to the UK? And I'm like, no, because the scope of opportunity was limited in Australia. Would you take on an APAC? You know, if the role arose as a succession plan. So that was probably the role that really started to build my career out in terms of that bigger role that I absolutely thrived in. So absolutely, that was certainly the starting point in that.
I think Reed actually placed me in my first kind of junior role when I was 15
really?
or so. I think so. I remember
Yes.
seeing like used to have all the cards in the window of all the different jobs that were.
So that was UK Reed, very shop front. In Australia, we were more boutique.
Yes, yeah. That's where you kind of started, or where you saw that within your kind of journey, I guess. You mentioned just then that you've never needed to apply. You've always been promoted. Why do you think that is? What is it about you and how you conduct yourself, how you lead teams, businesses, that you think it just clearly works?
Probably goes back to growing up in an all-girls boarding school and on a
We
farm.
can go there. That's fine.
I think with my background, I have had to be very self-sufficient from an early age. So that goes, again, back to beliefs and values and whatever else it might be as well. So I think I've just always wanted to take people under my wing. I remember when I started at Reed, it was started in December 2008, I think it was, so right on the GFC. And I joined them to set up an amazing opportunity to set up a new division for them. And we went straight into GFC. And I just went, do you know what, I'm just going to focus on what I have control over, forget the noise, and just went after new business. And I was one of their top performers in the APAC region in the first 6 months. So again, it was just really focusing on that. But throughout my journey, it has just been, it's proven by results. I've been used to do a lot of sport. So it's always, when we've had high achievers or whatever it might be, I've always wanted to be one of the top two. I've always wanted to be at the top of the table. And as a leader, I feel that's really important, to lead by examples and to strive for that, to really have that credibility with teams as well.
Who's influenced that way of thinking? Is there somebody in your life who's been a role model in that way or influenced that mindset? I know for myself, my dad is that person, and that's where I get it from. But is there anyone for you?
Early in my career, no, because it was just you got in and did your job. In my first role, I had a great manager, and I think she set me up really well and challenged me and gave me autonomy and gave me all the right skills to do the job. And I was a manager very early on there as well. I've always wanted to keep pushing myself on. I don't want to get bored. I want to keep evolving with that as well. But professionally, family values, absolutely. My parents sacrificed a lot for my upbringing as well. So it's always, you want to be proud and, do that as well. Later on in my career, I'd say there's a couple of out of industry. They're not mental. It's just, people that do podcasts or whatever it might be. So you take a lot from what you hear, read, see, or sort of resonate with as well. So I think there's certainly how I have changed cultures or set businesses up now has been more of the latter part of my career that I have been fortunate to come across, and some great leaders, of course, as well.
You're the CEO right now of Beaumont People. Tell me a bit about that role. What was kind of, I guess, your mandate, without going into too much detail, coming in, and how are you going on that journey?
A virtual coffee is how it all started. So it was very coincidental. I'd had some time out. My father passed away, so I'd had some time out. It was at a point where I was ready to return, obviously, back into the industry. So had a few coffees, and the opportunity with Beaumont just fitted really, really nicely. It's at my stage in my career, I want to give back. I want to help. It's an industry I've been so fortunate to grow up in, really. So for me, it's about partnering with organisations or tech providers or whatever it might be. How can we do things differently? How can we challenge what the norm is, or, bring the industry along? How do I bring up new starters in the industry, whatever it might be? But with Beaumont, a really nice lens of, again, giving back. We specialise in the for-purpose sector, so a lot of that is around working with charities, with association and member-based organisations, education providers, and health and community, of course. So,
and is that something that you've pushed, or was it always there?
No, that was there before I joined. Yeah. So we've doubled down in terms of how wide do you go. So we have narrowed the lens a little bit in terms of that. Pre-GFC, Beaumont was a lot broader, banking, finance, and did a lot of other things as well. So we have narrowed, certainly. We can't do everything. So we have really defined that specialisation, absolutely. Right fit, right culture, passion and purpose. So again, with recruitment, sometimes people don't always have alignment to passion, but it's a means of a fantastic career opportunity for earnings and purpose, of course. But the people we have in our business are really passion-led in terms of the sectors they recruit for. And a lot have worked within our business for 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
It's really interesting because, we talk to recruiters all the time and we always talk about niching down, making sure you specialize in an area. And it's interesting to see that happen at a business level as well. So how do you stay focused there when you can kind of see over the hedge and there's other markets that you can make money in?
Shiny toy.
Yeah. How do you stay focused?
Setting up in new areas also requires investment. Right organisations, if you're looking at it, it's really around if you go into another sector, who else is already in there and what are they doing? And if you go into that, how are you doing it differently? Is it you're just, and I've seen this happen before with organisations where there's a downturn in the market, what market's hiring, they suddenly start doing something, and then when the market picks up again, they just drop it. So for businesses I've worked for, there has, like with Beaumont, I have actually run and set up health and community services previously, as an example. So, and that was part of Reed, was a big part of that as well. So it is an area I was very interested in, obviously, with the Beaumont story. But there's always a distraction of what else do we do and how do we broaden, but it needs to be aligned to your core business. If we started to recruit engineers, the consultants would be on an island. Where there wouldn't be crossover, just as an example. There wouldn't be crossover with the rest of the business, so I wouldn't want to silo anyone either.
And so staying focused on your niche at an industry level, what about staying focused on the type of people that suit Beaumont, the type of leaders you hire, the type of people, the consultants you hire? Let's talk a little bit about that. Are you pretty focused on this type of person, this type of leader works with us?
So I've been very fortunate. I haven't had to hire any leaders. Okay. So they were all in place well before me and are exceptional. In terms of who they are and their alignment to the business as well. Consultants, and I think the attraction with Beaumont is we do have a lot of flexibility. We're about a 98% female workforce in terms of what we do, and that's been very much driven, not purposefully, but just in terms of what we do offer our employees as well. The industries that we recruit for has probably attracted that as well. Yeah. What we need to be very careful of is not recruiting people that are just a nice fit. Is very challenging, and the market shifted. So when I joined, the market had shifted and we had to make some changes. But that was also about upskilling the staff as well around business development a lot more because we'd come off the COVID bubble and the market had shifted, of course. Yeah. So it is really about, yes, skill is trainable. Attitude, culture, all of the other bits aren't. So it's looking at what is trainable, what's not, and finding the right fit. Yeah, not just people that want to... I'd like to recruit for charities because it's nice to do. Yes, we love doing that, but there's also the sales element of it, and there are so many competitors now that have popped up as well.
So it sounds like you've been fortunate, not fortunate, it's the wrong word, but
I know
with
what you mean.
a very, very, very good, strong team there. In your career to date, though, have you had inherited a team or even hired leaders where they're not quite aligned, whether they're high performers but bad culturally? And how do you manage that?
Being honest with them, really. So, so if it's an individual, I would have a obviously off the floor conversation with them around that, and it's resetting expectation around this is my expectations. This might have happened before, and I've had to do this a couple of times where I've inherited teams. These are my expectations, and really, you're either on the bus or you're not. And it's being that clear. And in one of them, I literally did that and said, "I'm in it. I'm here for the long haul." But these are my expectations. If you want to be here, great, but this is what I expect from you. And, that conversation really turned our business around with one of them that I took over a particular team. But, yeah, having that conversation and just really, but also praising them when they're doing what you're asking them to do if there's a big shift there too. Yeah. So it's actually acknowledging that they're coming on the journey. Doesn't work in all cases, of course. I think we've all had... people that have worked for us over the past, in 28 years, of course I have, that just haven't been the right fit. Or salespeople that are great salespeople, but just not the right culture. When you're looking at high performance or whatever they might be great individual operators, but not team.
And I'm going a bit off topic a little
That's
bit.
All right, that's what we do.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to bring myself back. You've obviously led lots of different types of businesses, or in terms of like probably the culture. And do you think you've got core values that you always stay true to, or do you think you kind of adapt a little bit to the business.
Got me thinking.
Yeah. And again, I just thought of it just then, but I thought to myself, I think I've always had maybe a couple of core values that I stick to regardless, but you do flex a little bit. I'm wondering if it's like the same for you.
Every organisation you join is slightly different, and it depends on the needs of the organisation as well. So I know when I've a couple of roles I've come into, like new organisations when I've gone in, what your plan is from the outside, and then once you join and you see, it's not your value shift, but perhaps your plan in terms of how you thought you might operate shifts. I would say that, but my values, I'm very true to my values. Like as an authentic leader or integrity, let's call it. If my integrity ever gets called out, I do take that personally. That's something I hold as a really high value of mine.
I know you said the country manager was a CEO role. When you stepped into that, did you have to think differently to what you had maybe historically done in just senior leadership roles? Is it a different mindset going in?
Yeah, there is. Even if I go back to Reed, when I moved from I don't even know what roles I had, but it was always like
Senior
a state
leadership
manager,
role.
leadership roles, whatever. But you go from leading a team and having a team objective or these are my budgets I need to achieve. So it's very team focused, recruitment for your team. It's all about your team, really, at the end of the day. There's more to it, but of course. When you move into a more senior leadership role, it suddenly becomes strategy. It's continuity, profitability. It's all the decisions. Do you stay in this lease? Do you move to another? There's so much more to it. And being a CEO for a founder-led business, which I've worked for a few in the past as well, it is you're almost taking on the same, it's not, I know any founders that are listening, I know it's not the same level of stress and pressure, but it almost is, but you don't have the founder ability to make a decision because it's someone else's business, if you know what I mean. So I do try and operate within my guardrails. I'm not afraid to I've made some fundamental business transformations in organisations where I have worked for founder-led businesses, but it is about taking them on the journey for them to understand why that change needs to happen.
I love that. And I'm curious, and I'm sure I know the answer. The CEO you are today versus when you became a CEO, I'm sure there's been a number of mistakes in there. Are there any that you look at and say to yourself, that was significant in becoming the kind of CEO I am today?
You learn a lot, of course, and that's part of reflection. And taking that time out to really consider that as well. Not spreading yourself too thin, and I'm guilty of that. If you're trying to be across too many different things, you do bottleneck organisations or decisions, and that can cause frustration. So that's certainly something I've learnt, I'm aware of, and I will ask my team as well if I have a very open relationship with our managers. So it is also very much if that ever feels that if there's a decision that's waiting or anything like that, tell me straight away. So I'm asking them also, really encouraging that managing up, but giving them the freedom to make the decisions that I actually don't need to be across. Where before in a smaller organisation, perhaps you did need to be across them, but now it's actually giving them the bandwidth to operate within that and empowering them to do that.
Tough markets don't stop great recruiters from building great agencies. Fear does. The recruiter who waits for the perfect conditions, the right economy, the calmer climate, is the recruiter who never actually builds anything. The market has always had cycles. It always will. That's never the point. The timing is never wrong. The preparation is. Our ex-recruiter partners didn't wait, and right now they're thriving month to month, year to year, hitting personal bests, running agencies they're proud of. Not because the market handed it to them, but because they built the right foundations from day one, the right systems, the right clients, something that doesn't crumble the moment things shift. With ex-recruiter by your side, you don't have to figure it out alone. We've helped over 100 recruiters make the leap, backed by an in-house team across finance, marketing, branding, and partner success, all from day one. The market isn't the reason to wait. It never was. Click the link below and let's have a chat.
I know you've kind of answered it, but if there was one bit of advice, and I've actually got a friend, female recruiter, who stepped into a CEO role recently, is there any advice you'd give to somebody who's making that move for the first time?
When I've worked for founders as well, so if I do a founder-based conversation, because they're the true CEO roles, it is really around what's their roadmap for the business, what do they foresee the future being, making sure the priorities are aligned so that you can then operate within what you need to achieve without having to go and check or a difficult conversation at some point going, what are you doing that for? That was never agreed. So it's really about, for me, it's about for it to work between the two parties really, or whoever you're working with. It could be a group of founders. It's just really making sure you're all on the same page, and then having the autonomy to actually go and do the role and having whatever the checking points are around what that needs to look like, or the person that you're reporting to is, if you're doing board reports or whatever it might be, is having that Q&A and being challenged for growth.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I was looking through your background. Did you step away from being in a senior CEO role for a while?
I did.
You
Was when my dad passed away.
Okay.
Yeah, so I took
okay.
some time out.
How was it coming back? Like, did your mindset shift in terms of what became important, or were you a bit rusty from those conversations? How did you adapt?
That was the first CEO role, the first leadership role I'd come into at that level, being new to the business. So it was different. So at my prior role, like with Sirius, for example, I'd stepped up so I had a proven track record before I stepped into that role. And the team knew who I was and, whatever it might be. So starting at Beaumont People as a CEO from day one, I popped up overnight, as I mentioned. And first of all, it was absolutely getting my leadership team on board because I was a surprise hire. So building new relationships and really understanding the business challenges and what I thought I would come in and do and what I actually came in and had to do was very different. So it's probably you don't have all the answers. When you come in brand new, like it is about understanding why things are done that way and why they're not, and then just making bold decisions at times where you do need to do that, regardless of what's happened in the past. So the fresh eyes was good. I think at the beginning it was just the not knowing, and it's not knowing what my job was. I know what my job was.
Yeah. But
I've also come in and allowed our founder to semi-retire, so she stepped back from the business more so as well now. She's still involved but has stepped back. But she's been amazing in terms of giving me the freedom and space to do my role. Always a phone call away if I need her for absolutely anything at all.
I've got a question, and it's something that maybe I didn't struggle with in my career, but there's always a real balancing act between the cultural piece and the performance piece. Somebody who delivers one but not the other. And I'm just curious, how do you balance it from your perspective at the top of the pyramid?
If we touch on culture first, culture's always evolving. It's never a set and forget. So what I try to encourage is that everyone is part of the culture and everyone is responsible for it. If you hear a water cooler conversation, don't feed to the conversation, don't feed to whatever it is. Deal with it. Like if the person knows whatever it is, or come and flag it. And I know there was even at Beaumont when I started, there was a rumour, and it was like, oh, Deb's been brought in a 6-month contract, and anyone that listens to this at Beaumont will laugh. But it was a rumour that went around and it came back to me and it created uncertainty. So as soon as I heard about it, I just addressed it in a whole company meeting and I went, okay, so I've heard.
It's really good.
And I just bit it straight on the, to squash it and say, I am here and I am invested. Because again, a new leader coming in and some people may have uncertainty around what is the future. So just really creating that. I've been very open in communication, very transparent. It's my style. So just in terms of that. So with anything like that, I'm straight onto it.
Love it. And what do you find the most enjoyable part of being a CEO of a recruitment business?
I'm one of those people, my own worst enemy. I actually have really loved coming in and building businesses or reframing businesses or going through transformation, because at the end of the day, it's a hard job. It can be isolating. As I said, great team around you, but it's tough.
It's lonely at the top, right?
It's lonely at the top. There's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of Sunday night, got to get all this done, whatever it might be, and you just do it. But yeah, it is a tough gig, but as I said, absolutely love it. So I wouldn't change anything about it.
I guess on the flip side, what is the hardest part about that?
I think, to go back a step, you're running a business for someone. So it's doing that with the level of respect, alignment. And I know when I joined Beaumont, I said to the founder, I was like, if I start to steer the business in one direction too far, I need you to tell me. So I give permission to, pull me up if I've gone too far one way or anything like that. So, but coming in with fresh ideas. Some of the businesses I'd say are fairly, our fee structure is because you can't change certain things, but you want to and you see the need to do that. So not all decisions, they do sit with you at the end of the day, but it's not your business. But you're there to, you're taking it to the next level. You're there, and that's for me. It's a long-term commitment, absolutely. But at the end of the day, you go through a lot of the sleepless nights and the hard yards and the stresses and a lot of grey hairs. But you're doing that for someone else.
And I have to ask, because you're clearly doing an incredible job, because you did win the award that I mentioned at the start. How did that come about?
That was nominated. That was peer nominated. So it's not a submission that we put forward as an individual. So there's a criteria as an influential businesswoman in terms of what they look for. Innovation, reputation, there's lots of different areas. But what are you doing to sort of challenge the status quo and the norm in the sector? And how are you sort of showing up and being present as well and leading change? So that was identified, and then they actually ask you from their research team that ask you to submit an application. And then that is assessed over a period of time. Then you're interviewed.
Wow, that's pretty thorough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so for people out there at the moment who are on their path, they're aspiring to get to where you've got to, what advice or insights can you give them? And I know that's a very broad question because it could be at the start or midway through, but are there any things that you think just stay on track or stay focused on certain things or stay true to your values? Is there anything that you think helped you on your way?
What I didn't do when I first started my career, because we weren't set up that way to do that, but then I learned to do that, was specialisation. So when I joined, and I know there's many great generalists out there, and I loved it because being a generalist, every job was different, every day was different, every mandate. Modern day of recruitment, it's really, really difficult if you don't specialise to stand out. So that would be definitely my number one. And depending if you're a consultant or in a management role, but definitely have a plan. Like if you're looking at, I want to be promoted or I want to become a manager or whatever it might be, is understand what the career pathway is to get there. What do you need to achieve? If you're chasing the financials, again, it's how do you actually set yourself up to do that and to do it the right way, not just about the money? What about the clients and candidate relationships? What about, the bigger purpose of what you're doing?
I look back on my earlier career and I used to look at it and think, I need to manage my career like the advice I'd give candidates. So I just be really disciplined. If I wasn't having them promotion conversations at a certain time, I'd feel like I was underachieving and I'd push for that. And that was pretty militant in terms of how I approached it. But you are saying keep a plan, stay true to the plan.
High performers, it's hard to manage high performers as well. I've had a number of them in my career. Their expectations on themselves are exceptional. I remember I had a healthcare team many years ago as well, and they pushed each other and they got to a certain point. But then if they weren't achieving that, to them it was self-failure. So they were self-motivated. So I got them to that point of the self-motivation and how to divide your desk and build a team if you want to grow, like how to do all of that. But their self-pressure on each other on themselves was really tough. And I've seen that with many individuals. They do a 100K month or whatever it might be, and then that's the new norm. And if they don't do that, it's a sense of failure. So how do you support those people and how do you have those conversations around what's normal, what's exceptional, and what's sustainable? Otherwise, they will burn out.
Well, it's a real thing. And I chatted to somebody earlier today actually talking about actually managing high performers is way harder than managing mid or low performers. Yeah. It challenges you every day about how good you are as a leader. I'm just wondering if you have any tips, tricks, things you might do, particularly with some of these people.
So what's driving them around high performance? Is it industry expert? Is it earnings? Like there'll be different things for each person of what's important to them and why. And if you understand the why, then it helps you manage those conversations a lot more. I've had people who have needed to earn a certain amount of money to buy a house, whatever it might be. So that's their pressure in terms of high performance is I need to perform at that level to afford XYZ. So it's understanding what the end goal is or the driver, or they might be supporting family, they might be going through a difficult time, whatever it might be. Yeah. So if you unpack the why and get to know them a little bit more around that, it is, I'm not going to say easy because it's not, but what support do they need around them as well? Like how do you enable that? But how do you not then to have it as a deterrent or it's impacting other people in the team? Sometimes you'll see high performers step outside of their lane, let's call it, and start, oh no, it was a perm job all along if it was temp to perm. So this starts to blur a lot of lines because they're chasing more and more and more, and it can actually then have a cascading effect into the organisation.
What's the best piece of advice you've got in your career at a leadership level? And the reason I ask is I remember one piece of advice I got, and I think about it all the time, and I've always maintained it. And I won't share it now because it's your conversation, but is there anything that stands out for you?
Just really empowering managers when you're looking at that to make the decisions and allow, it's a safe environment to fail. It's okay. Around that as well. And I think in management, actually, one of the ones I would say is you don't need to have all the answers. And if you don't, great questions will help you get there. And not trying to spread yourself too thin. So there's probably a couple there, but they're really big ones that I do take away.
And if you could go back, give yourself, the person who was graduating from university, getting their first job, if you could go back and give them any advice.
I wish I knew what I knew today.
Me too.
It was different back then, but just the specialisation. And I'd say if you're using it in today's environment rather than 28 years ago, we were sending resumes on fax machines. But if I was talking to someone today about in future back to today's environment, it just would be around specialisation. Don't get distracted by all the toys. Don't spend hours on LinkedIn researching. Just pick up the phone, get out in front of clients is actually the one big thing I'd say right now. Is it's so easy post-COVID that people are so comfortable on a Teams or a call or whatever it might be. Get out and see your clients. That's where the relationships happen.
That's really good advice, and it's amazing. 28 years in the industry, and the advice is probably the same as it would be back then now.
Yeah.
That's been really great. And maybe we just answered this, but is there any one thing that through this whole conversation we've had that you think, this is the thing I want you to take away from the meeting with Debbie Davis? Is there anything that you think people should think about?
Reputation in the industry follows you everywhere. If you are looking to really build a long-term career in recruitment as well and financially rewarding, pick where your passion is. And sometimes you don't know that when you go into recruitment. I know people say, I don't know what I don't know. But the longer that you're in a market for, the more successful you are. You build a personal brand, clients start to come back to you, your earnings increase. I see so many people just jumping around the industry, and they unfortunately will never see the fruition of people that find what they're passionate about and stick with it.
Love it. Debbie, it's been a real pleasure meeting you. Thank you for sharing. I've really enjoyed your journey, and we haven't got enough time to go through everything that you've done in your career. And so I've tried to cover as much as I can, but I think the biggest takeaways for me at least are specialisation. I think that comes through, and be in front of people you're working with. Thank you again. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thanks so much.